Level 1, the calm is $15.50 an hour. That's the paycheck. The kitchen has no interest in what you think you're worth. 6 in the morning. The walk-in smells like cold steel and yesterday's veal stock. You've portioned the same shallots 3 times because your brunoise wasn't tight enough. Fingers numb. Lower back sending a dull, grinding complaint that starts around hour 7 and never quite stops. Nobody warned you about the feet, how after a double shift, even sitting feels strange, like your body has forgotten what rest means. The head chef doesn't know your name. He calls you new guy. The station veterans treat you as furniture unless something burns. Then you become very, very visible. Marco Pierre White earned his 3rd Michelin star at 33, the youngest in history at the time. Before that, he was here. Exactly here. Scrubbing stock pots, watching, absorbing every correction. He said kitchens taught him that tears are pointless. For months in, you finally understand that sentence. You study everything. The way the saucier holds his reduction at a bare simmer. Patient, unhurried. The plating geometry on the tasting menu, always odd numbers, always a variation in height. You taste stock without asking and store the flavor like a photograph. The burn on your left wrist from Tuesday is still raw. You wrap it, clock in, say nothing. Somewhere around month 5, eating outside this kitchen starts to feel like settling. Your palate has been recalibrated by obsession. A private snobbery has taken root that you'd be embarrassed to name out loud. That's the first thing the kitchen plants in you. Not skill. Contempt for ordinary. Level 2, the sous chef. 3 years later. $52,000 at a mid-level fine dining house. More at a starred kitchen if you can secure the spot. You stand at the pass now to chef's right. You read the dockets, call the fire times, intercept mistakes before they reach the dining room. When a plate arrives wrong, sauce pooled instead of cannelled, lamb a shade too pink, you handle it before chef even registers the problem. Precision is the religion here. Speed is just the entry fee. The brigade responds differently to you now than 6 months ago when you were one of them. A distance exists. Some of it is respect, some resentment. The ones who've been here longer look at you sideways during family meal. You've learned to let that wash off. Your girlfriend made reservations for your birthday. You showed up 40 minutes late, service running long, still mentally refiring a dish that went out wrong during second seating. She'd already ordered. She stopped making reservations the following month. Thomas Keller wrote that a great chef must seek perfection in the simplest things. What that sentence omits is what the seeking does to whoever is sitting across from you at dinner. The cycle is locked in by now. A clean service, every ticket timed, every table turned without incident, produces a specific chemical relief that masquerades as happiness. Then service ends. By morning, the hunger for the next clean service has already begun. Withdrawal and craving, wearing the costume of professionalism. Chef pulls you aside on a Thursday afternoon. He's leaving, consulting contract, different city. The investors want to know if you can run this kitchen. Your pulse changes in a way that has nothing to do with fear. Level 3, the head chef. $78,000 base. Your name printed at the bottom of the menu in small type. First order of business. Tear the tasting menu apart and rebuild it from scratch. Not because the previous version was broken, because this kitchen needs to carry your fingerprint, not a predecessor's. The duck you've been refining for 2 years goes on. Aged breast, black garlic ash, fermented plum that took 11 iterations to get honest. Your pastry chef stares at the dessert concept sketch and asks if you're serious. You look at her until she understands that you are. Gordon Ramsay earned 3 stars at his Chelsea restaurant in 2001. He later said maintaining them weighed more than earning them. You read that interview years ago and thought it sounded theatrical. Standing at this pass, you finally believe him. The inspector visits sometime in autumn. You'll never know the exact night. But during a Tuesday service in October, something in the room shifts. A particular stillness. The instincts you've sharpened over a decade register the observation before your conscious mind catches up. You cook that service with a focus that edges toward frightening. 1 star arrives in March. You read the announcement alone, 7 a.m., sitting in your car outside the restaurant. The feeling is vast, and then, within about 40 seconds, it narrows to a single cold thought. The 2nd star is harder to earn than the first. That contraction from enormous pride to immediate appetite, that's the mechanism. That's the trap door in the floor of every achievement this life offers. Level 4, the owner. A 52-seat space in a neighborhood the realtor calls emerging. Personal savings, gone. 3 investors. A bank loan at 6.8%. A construction overrun of $140,000 before the first ticket prints. The cooking is extraordinary. Your team knows it. 8 months later, the city knows it. A major critic writes that the tasting menu is an act of controlled violence against mediocrity. The reservation system crashes by 9 a.m. But here's what that review doesn't cover. The 11 p.m. calls about labor costs. The health inspection that nearly shut you down over a refrigerator log discrepancy. The sommelier who quit on a Friday with no notice, forcing you to cover the floor yourself while simultaneously calling the board. The month food cost hit 38% because your primary supplier changed pricing mid-contract. 2 stars arrive 14 months after opening. A food magazine interview. The journalist asks about your philosophy. You talk about restraint, about farmers, about ingredients that speak for themselves. Every word is authentic. Every word is also a practiced version of authentic, the grandmother story, the childhood mango, the first memory of tasting something that mattered. You've told it so many times it now plays back like a recording rather than a memory. The loneliness doesn't announce itself. It settles in quietly the way drafts do. You only notice when you've already been cold for a while. Level 5, the empire. 3 restaurants. Then 6. A ghost kitchen for delivery revenue while a new flagship is under construction across town. You haven't cooked a full service in over a year. Your role now: menu architecture, talent development, brand partnerships, investor calls, cookbook negotiations, keynote speeches at hospitality conferences where you discuss the future of dining to rooms full of people who will never work a line. Daniel Hum reimagined 11 Madison Park entirely during the pandemic. He framed it around values. It was also about survival. At this altitude, values and strategy are the same speech delivered to different rooms. Your executive chefs are exceptional. That's the complication. A 29-year-old you pulled from commas 5 years ago landed a national magazine profile last month. The headline called her the next generation of fine dining. You shared it across your restaurant's social channels. Your PR team sent a congratulatory note. That night, alone, you sat with the information longer than felt comfortable. The paranoia doesn't call itself paranoia. It presents as vigilance, as strategic thinking, as appropriate protection of what you've built. That's the disguise it wears. Sleep becomes shallow. You attribute it to the workload. The workload is real. It's just not the complete answer. Group revenue, $14 million annually. Your personal draw, $380,000. You have a driver now. You buy wine by the case and rarely open it. Level 6, the legend. The 3rd star. Your publicist calls at 6:48 a.m. The announcement has been public for 11 minutes. Your phone shows 340 notifications. She has 3 draft responses ready for social media and needs an approval by 8. You sit at the prep counter of your flagship, lights still low, room smelling of cleaning solution and cold stock, and try to be present inside this particular moment. 20 years ago, you were standing at a prep station with numb fingers and a burn on your wrist, wondering if any of it would ever become something. Rene Redzepi said, after Noma's recognition, that the achievement immediately became a new pressure rather than the end of an old one. You used to find that slightly self-pitying. Reading it this morning, it's the most honest sentence written about this industry. The feeling you expected, the arrival, the wholeness, the exhale, doesn't appear in the form you spent 15 years imagining. What arrives instead? Genuine pride, gratitude that sits physically in your chest. a vivid flash of that first kitchen and the smell of cold metal. And then, almost immediately, the restlessness. The mind has already started scanning. London? A documentary? The pursuit instinct doesn't pause to absorb. It reroutes. Underneath all of it, quieter than the celebration. An accounting. Your father's 60th birthday dinner. You sent flowers because you had a press event. A sous chef who left your kitchen after 18 months and later told people it damaged her confidence in ways that took years to repair. The version of yourself that used to sit after service and feel things without editing them. That person was refined away so steadily you nearly missed the disappearance. You built something that will outlast you. The cost of it also outlasts you. It just lives in different people in different ways. At 8 a.m., you approve the post. You walk into prep. The kitchen fills. You call the board. ## doctor's diagnosis. The psychology of this life. The Michelin climb is not primarily a system for producing great food. It's a system for producing a particular kind of person. Understanding that distinction explains more about this life than any review ever will. It starts with suffering reframed as identity. The early kitchen years operate through deliberate stress, physical exhaustion, hierarchical pressure, relentless correction. In traditional brigade culture, this isn't a design flaw. It's the design. The brain, under sustained duress, develops a specific coping response. It reclassifies the source of pain as the source of meaning. This is not weakness. It's adaptation. The long-term consequence, however, is a person who can only access satisfaction through effort that hurts. He stops feeling like rest, starts feeling like laziness. The star system then exploits this perfectly. Each star functions as a chemical event the nervous system can only fully process once. The first produces a genuine response. The second, smaller. By the third, the baseline has shifted so far that the achievement registers as relief rather than joy, structurally identical to how tolerance works in dependency. Not because ambition is addiction, because the neurological architecture is the same. The identity erosion is the part nobody discusses openly. Every level demands a trade: softness for precision, availability for focus, relationships for reputation. Each exchange feels rational at the moment of decision. The problem is compounding. By the time 3 stars arrive, the person who first walked into a kitchen exists mostly in old photographs and in the origin story you tell journalists. What draws people to this life is real. The promise of control in a world that resists mastery. For a particular kind of mind, one that experienced early instability, or felt unseen, or needs to prove something to someone who may no longer be alive, the kitchen offers a domain where obsession produces measurable results. That's powerfully seductive. The empire adds a second psychological layer: the fear of succession. Building teams in your own image feels like legacy building. It is also a defense. If everyone beneath you is a version of you, no one can surpass you. The structure you create to prevent obsolescence becomes the enclosure that prevents anyone from inheriting what you built. Here is the true cost of this life, stated without ceremony. The people who left because you were too absorbed to stay present, the cooks whose confidence you carved down in the process of maintaining your standard, the meals that stopped bringing pleasure because eating became diagnostic, and the version of yourself that was uncertain and curious and open. That version was traded away slowly in the service of excellence, without a single dramatic moment you could point to. Whether the exchange was worth it depends entirely on what you were escaping when you first picked up the knife. That answer is different for everyone. It's worth knowing yours before the kitchen decides for you.